Hi, welcome to Soul Stream Media. I'm Stacy St. Clair, your host, and I am super excited to have my friend, author, speaker, fierce love coach, Suzanne Lydecker here today. Suzanne is on a mission to build bulletproof women who keep their promises, learn to say no, and never take anything personally again. With a background in marriage and family counseling and a certificate in spiritual psychology, Suzanne blends education with a holistic approach to guide women on their journey to self-discovery. Suzanne is dedicated to teaching women how to say no so they can say hell yes to love, life, and business. Welcome, Suzanne.
Thank you, Stacy.
I also want to say she has been featured on the cover of Mind, Body, Soul magazine, and she is the author of the book A Woman on Top, which you can get at SuzanneLydecker.com. So, Suzanne, tell us, how do you build bulletproof women, and what does that mean?
Well, it's so
Bulletproof.
funny that how I build and who I help to be more loving and to live a kinder life. The audience stays the same, but the bulletproof women is pretty funny because, I had this vision of, having to wear a bulletproof vest so that you could protect your heart. And now I really see things, everything is constantly morphing. So that's the way I've been introduced, and that's the way we're going to start. I think what I'm really trying to do is help women to live their best lives. And actually, Stacy, you were the one that gave me the catch-all phrase, which was by Derek Sievers, and he said it on the Tim Ferriss show, is if it's not a hell yeah, it's a no. And it's so funny because I love saying yes to things. Saying yes to things is really important. And saying, it sounds like if you say no to everything that's not a hell yeah, that you should just sit around on your couch by yourself at night. Yeah, no, that is the one time when you say yes, even when you don't feel like it, because we're getting more and more and more isolated as human beings, and especially women over 50. Sometimes we're like, there's no one out there. We're never going to, whatever. We're just going to want to stay home. Do not stay home. And say yeses to as many things as possible with a big smile on your face. And I think that the bulletproof women, if I go back to that, we want to build women. I want to help support women in one, knowing that they're not alone ever. You're not the only one that whatever thing happens to. It happens to everybody. So don't feel like you're alone. My goal in life is to be as loving as possible whenever possible. And that makes me feel bulletproof, kind of, where I just can really not take things personally. And it's not like, ladies, particularly, it's not like you learn how to do it and you arrive. And then God never gives you anything to take personally again. It's not the way it happens. It happened to me this morning. Somebody said something and it was kind of hurtful. And I was like, okay, well, how can I take what I'm doing and practice what I'm suggesting other people do, which is just a muscle to exercise, and still set good boundaries? And I hope I did that, but it's not as if it just stops coming. You
Right.
figure
It does keep coming. And I know, I
it
think
does.
we are bombarded, even though we are becoming more isolated, there's still a lot of distractions. And to have that, to be empowered enough to say no when something feels off, especially with family, right? I think a lot of us have, trouble saying no to family, to children, adult children, young children, adult children, spouses, boyfriends. Yeah. So speaking about setting
Question
boundaries,
is, like, with your family, I'm just curious, like, when would you wanna say no and why?
me, let me think if I've said no lately. Well, I live like 3 states away. So I have pretty good boundaries. I'm pretty,
Well, this
detached
is the
with love.
thing.
But it took a lot of work with coaches like yourself. It took a lot of work for me to heal and, be able to be even in the presence of my father without being triggered.
Well, I think this is the key here, and this is what sets me apart from a lot of different coaches, although maybe it doesn't because 'cause you've got it too, is that we wanna find ways to not take it personally. So when we're with the people that we presumably love, our family, that we can, water off a duck's back. For example, Stacy, I waited 4 months to have my children come, 2 out of the 3 of them, to come to Orlando to visit me for Thanksgiving. I was all prepared. I went to the store like 8 times before they got there, and I go to the store 8 times in a year if possible. And still they get tee hee hee and they start teasing me and they think it's really funny what they're teasing me about, but you never wash the dishes well enough. I mean, I've heard this 1,000 times. Someone's like, do you have to like tell me how bad I am at washing dishes every time you see me? Apparently. So rather than getting triggered and not wanting to be with them, I'm trying to embrace what it is. And I wrote a Substack about this. I read about all kinds of things on Substack if you're interested in
How do
going
we
to
find you on Substack?
just look up my name, Suzanne Lydecker. I'm sure
Right.
that's gonna be in your show notes or somewhere.
Yes, I put it in the notes.
I'm the only Suzanne Lydecker on the planet, as far as
Okay.
I know.
Okay,
But
great.
anyway, the whole goal here is to learn to just come from loving and not to take it personally.
Right.
When we take it personally, that's when we really suffer. And I think
Why do we take it personally? I know it's part of codependency. Like, what is that
being
that
called an
gets
ego.
triggered? Fear
Yeah, well,
of what they
it's
think of us?
somebody told me I don't have an ego. I'm like, do you have a heart and lungs? If you have a heart and lungs, you have to have an ego, okay?
Ego's fear, right? It's just we're in fear. We're protecting, right? Ego is our protection.
Well, and I think that we naturally one of the reasons we don't say no to family members or some people that trigger our buttons is that we wanna be liked.
That's
That is
it.
the number one human condition is to want to be liked and appreciated for what they do. So when my ego is hurt is when I think that I didn't do a good enough job. I
Mm.
didn't do a good enough job to prepare for the children to come to Florida,
So
and
if we're not
therefore
good enough,
I am
they
bad.
don't like us. Yeah. So
And
then
if
what
I'm
happens?
bad, then yeah, then I don't like myself, or
We're left
it
alone. We're
all
gonna
really
be
goes
left
back to
alone.
being you're gonna be left alone.
Abandonment.
Nobody's gonna love you. This
Yes.
is why people do things they don't wanna do
Yes.
because they don't wanna say no. They don't wanna hurt anybody's feelings. Even when, somebody asks you out on a date, for example, and you kind of, like, were really like, "No, I don't think so." This happened to me the other day, huh? And I didn't say, I would be happy to go skiing with you, but I don't think we're a good match because, well, I didn't want to have them assume that I thought that they were asking me out on a date. I didn't want them to assume that, I wasn't available or whatever it is. I mean, sometimes when you're caught off guard like that and when you first meet somebody, you don't want to hurt their feelings, but it's, important to say, "Hey, I don't think I'm interested," or whatever your truth is, and not be afraid of not being liked because maybe you're not gonna be liked for it
Right.
the way it is, but you won't compromise and do things you don't wanna do. So, that ego, very strong, wants to be loved,
Mm.
you know?
Loved and accepted and not left. Not left alone.
Right?
Yeah.
Not left alone. Just to share something, I hope this is okay. You were just talking about being somewhere where you were a long ways from where your friend group is and how situationally sometimes we can feel very lonely
Mhm.
because we're in a place where we're living somewhere where, it's just isolating. It sounds like you corrected that problem and you're living somewhere right where you want to be.
Well, I've had a lot of travel with work the last 5 years, really, almost
Yes.
6 years, and so that itself, felt lonely.
Interesting.
Mhm.
See, so you can be that just is you're just a case study for you can be busy
Right.
and still not be
Feel
happy,
connected.
thrilled,
Yeah,
connected.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so it was, great that I felt that, uh loneliness in order to it's great that we can feel our loneliness or feel our triggers because then we know for me I know, oh, I have to look at that, I gotta clear this
Yes.
out and feel whole. Like, so yeah, I just felt my feelings, I felt my loneliness, and then like for some reason I don't know, feeling my feelings, it clears it, and then I feel whole, and I don't need anybody, and I don't, and it becomes solitude, enjoyment, solitude, and that comes and goes, I think, through life. And so I believe certain areas on the planet, people feel more at home than other areas. Yeah,
Yeah.
the area I was sharing with you, like, don't feel. I always feel a little lonely, in that area we were discussing. So
Yes.
I don't know where that comes from because I've lived alone on the West Coast and in a cabin in a mountain for 9 months last year, never felt lonely.
Interesting.
Loved every minute of it, and of course, I had friends around, but just like, the other place we talked about, but, so I don't know what that's about, or maybe it was just timing in my life that it loneliness came up, and,
Maybe.
yeah, I don't know, but I have the skills to just feel my feelings,
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
had a chat with you, and yeah.
Well, life is very, like it throws at you, as I said, you're not immune from being exposed to feelings of loneliness or wondering, questioning what you're doing or feeling not good enough. And that's the time when you can use your tools to come in there and, really want the not taking things personally and saying no and personal responsibility are my three major pillars. But what I've added in there as a fourth is really kindness, and really being kind to yourself and recognizing, when those feelings come up that are not woo, all the nice, wonderful
Right.
feelings that, what can you do to change your situation or how can you be more kind and loving to yourself by going to get a massage or reaching out to your friends or doing whatever it is that makes you feel good. And in your case, kind of changing the scenario.
Yeah, and I did, and it feels great. Walking in nature, and I know you get out in nature every day, and that's huge for me. So tell us those pillars again.
Yes.
Your
So
4 pillars.
yes, these came really from the writing of my book. So somebody just told me they read my book the other day and they're like, "Wow,
Are
that's."
the 4 pillars are in A Woman on
They
Top or
they
your new book?
are, but they're not identified as the 4 pillars, but they're definitely there
Okay, and
throughout the book.
number 1 is what?
Personal responsibility, and I actually use the term personal responsibility in there, and that means taking responsibility for your side of the street. So, if you need to do some work on yourself, yeah, don't avoid it. Just do it and, like,
Yeah,
clean up your thing, and there's always something to clean up.
that is the greatest opportunity in relationships is not to react. Oh my god. My poor ex-husband. I would
My poor ex too.
Oh, God bless them, right? I mean, I would just be like, "We gotta fix this right now. I'm uncomfortable, so you need to change right now. We need to fix this."
And, Stacey, one of the things that I'm doing is so I know what it's like to take things personally and to nag and to do all those things because I look pretty good on the outside. I'm a good athlete, like talented in
Yeah,
many
you're
ways,
fabulous. Yes.
financial good decisions, but I took everything personally. I got really upset. And that really
That pillar
impacted
2, not to take things personally?
Nah, number 3.
3,
So,
okay,
2 is saying no if it's not a hell yeah. 3
okay.
is don't take things personally, and to me, that is the most important one. And be kind. That's really important to yourself and to others. But
Okay,
I was
so,
gonna
yeah,
say,
tell us more about not taking things personally.
well, I'll give it to you by example, is that I used to take everything personally, and I cried a lot, and I hid behind tears because if somebody was way more of a bully than I was, I knew that I could protect myself by me getting upset with myself first. "Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I can't do it." I used to go on these pity stories, like, ask my children, and I just don't do that anymore. And, God came down and he said, because I do everything I do for free and I make a little bit of money on books. It'd be nice to make more money on books so I can continue to do this. But I have another job, so I make money doing that. So God came down and he's like, listen, lady, I taught you how to do this. So you can make it your life's work to go out and teach other people. And what's going to happen if you can hear what I'm saying and learn how not to take things personally and reach out if you want. I give free advice a lot, is that you'll have a better relationship with your partner, with your children. My relationship with my children is night and day different from who I was to who I am now. It is
Yeah,
so
it
much
sounds
more
like
loving and kind and gentle and soft. And it doesn't mean we don't get into a few little
sure.
naggy, but I able to correct those immediately.
Right, because when we take correct me if I'm wrong, I'm thinking if we are taking things personally, we put ourselves we're a victim.
We're a victim, and we also, as my children will tell you, you're just making it all about you. Well, as a matter of fact, I am.
If I say something well, one of my friends says, "Oh, let me call you a wambulance," like wham wambulance.
Oh,
Gonna say
ambulance. Let me get you some,
wambulance. I never heard that before.
let me get you some cheese and crackers with that wine. Like, it's just
Yeah,
not very attractive, and the thing is that I looked good 85% of the time, but 15% of the time I was a mess, and that was influencing really my ability to be okay the other 85% of the time.
mhm,
So, I know that there's people doing exactly what I did because I did it,
right.
and, we don't like to talk about those parts where we fall apart a little bit.
You know what my protection thing was? Speaking of, like, the bulletproof, but not you're building healthy boundaries, but I did have that, like, the ego, the protection. One thing I love to do was complain about my spouse. I mean, I would
Oh,
build a cake to other people. I mean, that's just so, like, not non-negotiable, like, with myself now. Like, I don't talk about or complain. Try to not to complain about anybody to anybody else, right, but, oh, I did. It was
yeah.
like an addiction. It must have been like a adrenaline or I really think it was like some adrenaline rush
Plus,
complaining.
it's just human nature to wanna talk about the bad. That's why we
Right.
gossip. Gossip is just another form of complaining about, other people, and it just it's not like I've never done it and that I'm perfect and sit on the right hand of
Right.
God Almighty, but my
But it can be
ego won't
obsessive
let it.
compulsive. It can be a way of being that people cope.
Yes, it
It is a very unhealthy way. I know you agree.
and it's
It
not very
seems
attractive.
exactly, yeah. Well, he divorced me. Would I would have divorced me too, and it was the best gift, God and him could have given me.
Me too, kind of, but yeah, it was just
Yeah,
really not nice.
yeah. So I feel like, we gotta go through 1, 2, and 3 to get to the number 4 the 4th pillar to be kind, right?
Yeah. Or I suppose you could work backwards, Stacey, and just be kind and
True.
by by just the way of being to how can you be as kind as you
Right,
can?
stop complaining.
Yeah,
Yeah.
stop complaining
Stop
and
complaining, be
especially
kind.
being kind. How are you gonna be complaining?
Right.
Doesn't really work. I'm just thinking of a situation that I might need to go be really kind to someone because I was kind of whining earlier. And so there's always opportunities, even on a podcast, to say, oops, so I'm gonna call this person.
There's that pause before
Yeah.
pause to check in with
And if
ourselves.
you I mean, I'm not suggesting you whine and moan and then go clean up your act, but if you do whine and moan for whatever reason I didn't really whine and moan today, I don't know, I semi got my feelings hurt, and I'm like, "I didn't think I had feelings to get hurt anymore, but I actually do, and that's okay." And what I can do to clean up my side of the street is just be kind and loving.
I love that. Work 'em backwards. Work 'em
Working
backwards.
backwards, that's
Great.
what
I
it's
love
work
it.
the way you want. And, the thing is that I think that, everyone I'm sure that's listening to this is familiar with Mel Robbins, and I think that my pillars are a way to let them. They are practical tools
Mhm.
to be able to because I love her and I love in her book where she gave 9,000 different examples of how this let them theory can work. She could have probably written the book in 4 chapters, but she wrote it in 21 or however many there were. And there's no way that there's not somewhere in that book that you can find yourself because she did it with her how her daughter let her get away. She learned not to take things personally too, because she was pretty raw about her daughter's Sawyer. And no, so I think that these four things are also ways to not take things personally and to let them.
Right.
Right. So it's kind of exciting to I mean, I didn't really figure this out until I was 60 and I'm 66 right now. I've gotten 6 years to practice and I seriously am a different person each year. I can say, "Oh, well, I took that a little bit personally last year. I don't wanna do that anymore, and I'm telling you, it's an exercise. When you feel like when the rubber hits the road and somebody jams in and twists into your solar plexus, that's when the work starts. It's not the 85% of the time, it's the 15 or the 5 or whatever you're left with. And by that way, we can build a better world. The only way we can build a better world, more peaceful world, because it's falling apart out there, I think, is
Yeah, no,
by
when we can stop the drama in our own personal lives on the personal level, we're not contributing any more drama energy to the world because that's all it is. The Middle East is a giant buildup of I don't know why it always all the every time we honk, lay on the horn and traffic, or that's like putting negative energy, and it seems to pool up. And
it
I
does
always at
pull
the
up over
Chopra Center, one of the teachers at the Chopra Center used that as an example like 10 years ago, and
Yeah,
yeah.
I love the traffic because somebody said if you're mad in traffic, just remember that you're part of the traffic.
Yeah.
You are the traffic.
Yeah.
You're there too.
Yeah.
But
I'm
honking
always very like, "Oh, I'm sorry, because I screw up in traffic." That's why I never honk at anybody else because everybody screws up in traffic.
let's take this. So when somebody honks at me because it makes me feel like I've done something wrong, right? So I'm like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't this behavior is not really helping." I'll just use me as an example. Because somebody honks at me, what the way that I would like to react is that maybe they were doing it, let's just assume that they were doing it because I was doing something where we were maybe getting in an accident. They were trying to warn me. Beep, beep, get out of my way. Maybe they were doing it because they had a really bad day and their wife left them. I don't know. So rather than assuming that we're doing something wrong or that somebody else is doing something wrong, if they're really getting in your way and they stepped out, honk the horn, you don't want to get in a crash.
Yeah, true.
But I don't know how you receive people honking. I don't.
Well, no, I know. I mean, when I know I screwed up, you
Okay.
know, which
Then you
sometimes I
don't.
do with all my travel, driving in different cities where I don't know where I'm at, I will screw up, and people are, yeah.
I drove around for 2.5 months in
I
Italy.
know, I know, I know I did it.
Crazy. I know. I was like, I got yelled at by more Italians. I got yelled at when I was doing something wrong. I got yelled at when they were doing something wrong. So it's like, oh my God, thank you. Thank you. Because we do
Yeah,
make,
it's about that, be kind and not go into defensiveness when I know I've screwed up.
yes.
Go into that kindness that you talk about. Well, this is beautiful. You do beautiful work. You're helping transform. That's the purpose of Soul Stream Media to have amazing people like yourself who are dedicated to helping the world heal one person at a time on a soul level. These are really soul and personality changing pillars you've created. Personal
They are.
responsibility. No, if it's not a hell yes. Don't take things personally. Um, and
It's great.
to be kind.
Join the game.
Yes. Can
Just
I mention I heard that from a little bird you have another book coming out. Are you ready to share about that?
my working title of it is 100 Days of Tinder. So it's really about modern dating and how we got to where we are right now. And I'm accepting stories from friends and anybody who wants to share. They don't have to be online dating. I'm using the 100 Days of Tinder as my working title right now, but it's really about, our desire to let's put it this way. We're in this kind of thing where some people are desiring for love because they're going on online dating and they want to find someone. But then there's all this other people that are like, oh no, I don't need anybody. Now
Two extremes.
somebody's confused. Yes, there's two extremes. And I think that, I have no problem with online dating. I didn't do a lot of it myself. So just because I was too afraid to get past the texting part. No other reason than I didn't believe that they were who they were. And sometimes like I have this strange man writing me from Facebook and I don't really even know if he's a real person. I mean, it's gone that far that you don't really know whether people are real.
Technology.
So,
Yeah.
but I think that there's so much, room to look at love and how we can show up in ways to create that for ourselves. And, one of my big things is what if he never shows up, which maybe he won't. Then how do you want to live your life? Happy and
Yeah.
healthy and, with your friends and doing wonderful things and getting out as much as possible. So if you are interested in sharing a good, juicy online dating story, either good or it's going to end on my daughter getting married 8 years after I told her husband, "Swipe on my daughter," and all of a sudden I'm throwing a wedding in France. So it's not all about bashing online dating. It's about stories that make you feel like you're not crazy
Right.
because it's happened to other people. And some of them will, you know, pull a few heartstrings. So it's going to be great. I'm super excited about it.
Well, I'm excited to read your next book too. And I think if we all work through the four pillars, the chances are much better of attracting, a true
Absolutely.
soulmate, companion, partner. So,
And I will look forward to hearing how your relationship goes, Stacy. Your
yeah,
model.
thank you. Thank you. Yeah, for me, it is. It's working through those pillars of yours
Yes.
and on a daily basis, even.
And you gotta remember the most important thing here is that you work on them every day, but when the rubber hits the road, when you're like, "I'm angry, I'm upset, I'm sad," that's when they come into practice.
Yeah,
That is what's gonna shift your world.
yeah.
So practice them all the time.
Yeah. I did get triggered a few weeks ago and I said, "Wow." I said, "Wow, that was bad," to him, and he didn't know what he had done. And so I didn't answer the phone until I took a little time, but I still was triggered and I picked the phone
Hear you.
up. Picked the phone up, which I think is fine. This was great because I got to see how does he repair? How does he take responsibility?
Good for you.
And not take things personally, is he capable of? And, I was impressed. He repaired because, of course, he was calling what is up. He did not defend. He listened, and I was still pretty triggered because I was like I picked up the phone, I'm rushing to a lunch date with, my cousin, and I said, "Thank you because I thought I had worked through this issue, but thank you because I'm super triggered by what you said. I clearly have some more work to do." And I said, "I'm working through, some shame and failure." And he said, "Whoa, whoa, wait a minute. This is the first time you have said to me that you were feeling shame and failure around something." And I guess I had never shared that with him. And then I said blah, blah, blah. And I dropped an F bomb, but not to him about what I
Yes, I
was
hear.
feeling. Yeah. He's like, "Oh, wow. That's the first time I've heard you curse." So
That's
it was so instead of me blaming him, which by the time he called, I wasn't. I was able just to share, "This is what triggered me. This is
yes.
why I'm triggered. This is why I'm not answering. I need some time." And then I ended up dropping off. I said, "You know what? I got to go into Steve, my cousin, and who, and we both were mature adults and let it go until he called me around 5 p.m. And I was still a little bristly, I would say. But then we just talked it out, and yeah, I found him to be wonderfully supportive, and I love that he was trying to repair it and find out. That
Really great.
was new in a relationship for me. I've always had men that defend and blame and project and reject, and that was super attractive that
Yeah.
he
I
asked,
mean,
"What did I
ultimately,
say? What, blah, 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 what's going on here?"
yeah.
Super.
Ultimately, in my world, I would like to just not get triggered, but
Right.
I see, that's the
That'd be
ultimate
great.
goal.
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know if it's possible. Tool seems to be able to do it.
I
Who doesn't
think, I think
get triggered.
I don't know. I agree with you. But I think if we're out there living the way you and I do, we're super social, super active, we're in crowds, you're on stage, we're going to get triggered. The
Yeah,
bigger
maybe.
life we have, and that's sometimes why people don't live large. It is very safe to have a small life.
Yes, it
It is
is.
very safe. And sometimes we do have to pull back. I had to pull back last year big time.
Yes.
and hibernate and heal and reset. But yeah, we're going to get triggered because we're out there and we're dating and yeah, of course. But that's great. So thank you, Suzanne. Any last thoughts, words for the Soul Stream Media audience?
Just, keep it up. Just keep doing your best and know that, the more that you can put these things into practice, I promise you, your world is going to be calmer and more loving. And, the place that I notice it the most is with my children. As I said before, my relationship with them is so much healthier and they don't tease me as much. And when they do, my goal is to see it as being as funny as they do.
Uh,
And
the,
going, I deserve it. And
yeah, I think, right. They have
that
more.
shame and guilt, like I don't, those are the kind of things that we want to heal. And the way that we heal them is by doing this kind of work. So
Yeah.
blessings for you for having this great podcast. And thank you very much for having me on. And
Thanks for being on. We'll look forward to having you on again and seeing you. I know you're on a podcast tour right now.
I'm on podcast tour.
Thank you for being on Soul Stream Media, Suzanne.
Thank you. Love you, Stacy.
Love you too.